Hi Priyanka, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for being here today and representing the University of Manchester. Manchester is one of the top universities in the UK and also has a great global ranking. And I can't wait to talk to you and know more about your course. So, for everybody watching here, in this video, I'm going to talk about Priyanka's background at first. Then I'm going to ask her what it's like to study at Manchester, talking about the timetable, her course, and also about the job opportunities and how Manchester is helping in terms of building her career and things like that. So if you're studying any other course, does not matter. This video is applicable for everybody. So let's just get into it. So hi, Priyanka.
Hi, Devyani. It's so good to be with you here. And thank you so much for inviting me onto your channel. And I'm more than happy to represent the University of Manchester.
Thank you for being here, Priyanka. So can I please ask you again to formally introduce your name? Which course are you studying and again at which university?
So, hi, my name is Priyanka Choudhary. I am doing my master's in organizational psychology at the moment, and I'm doing it at the University of Manchester.
Okay, so let us talk about your background first. So can you tell me like what did you do your bachelor's degree in and where are you from?
Yeah, so I am from Rajasthan originally, but have lived in Pune most of my life. I did my undergraduate degree in Mumbai, though, so from University of Mumbai, and I majored in psychology. I took a Bachelor of Arts and majored in psychology. Um, and in there, when I majored in psychology, we studied all fields of psychology. And then when I was in my final year, I had to sort of make the decision of what I wanted to specialize in and what I wanted to do my master's in.
Right.
So in my final year, I was studying, everything like counseling psychology, abnormal psychology, even industrial and organizational psychology. And I also had some work experience. I was working part-time in a travel company, so it wasn't very related, but I was very interested in, the traveling industry at that time. So I did that. I did 2 psychology internships, and in my final year, I worked in recruitment and training at a health insurance company. So that part was very related to organizational psychology and sort of, working in there, and me finding the subject very interesting in my final year, I chose to do organizational psychology for my master's.
Right. So can you please tell me what organizational psychology is and how is it actually different than like an MSc psychology, for example?
Yeah, so I would say it's probably very different to, clinical psychology or abnormal psychology or counseling that people do. It's different in the sense that it's not so personable. So when you're doing, for example, clinical psychology, and you sort of take a deeper interest into the person's mental health and, sort of their psyche and, what their life is like, how their development is going, and sort of that personal interest. That's not really the case in organizational psychology. Here we are we are looking at it more from the company's perspective. So in organizational psychology, the point is to basically study people's behavior in the workplace. And we do that to be able to improve the efficiency in a company, make sure people are working more efficiently, everything is going smoothly. And we also try to, of course, obviously prioritize each employee's individual mental health and well-being in the workplace. So I think it's both sides, and it's a fine balance as well. So we will have modules like selection and assessment. So that basically concerns recruitment. Then we have training, we have managing people in organizations, we have relationships at work. It's a lot of things that we don't really think about that often. But even, recently we studied how feelings and emotions play such a role, even when you're working in a company, and how the feelings you have affect your co-workers, and how that results into work performance, especially when so many of us are working in teams rather than individually in the workplace these days. Then how that can result into whether if you're working efficiently or not. So it's a lot of aspects. It's many different areas that we are covering. So it's very interesting. Yeah.
Right. So because you're studying, like because you said like you had an option to choose your specialization in your bachelor's, and after that you came to you understood like you like organizational psychology and all of that. So do you think having a bachelor's in psychology is necessary, or anybody can pursue organizational psychology after they pass bachelor's?
So for my course, it is accredited by the British Psychological Society. So to be able to get onto this course, I had to submit them my mark sheets from my bachelor's. So they checked if I have studied enough psychology, and they checked if I'd studied all fields of psychology. So in that sense, obviously, it was important because they have to make sure you've done like research methods, research skills in all fields of psychology. If not, then there's conversion courses. So a lot of people, if they want to make a switch to psychology, they'll do like an MSc in psychology, which is a conversion course. So they do it there. But I would say if you want to do organizational psychology specifically, then it's very helpful to have a psychology degree for your undergraduate. I do know that some of my friends are who study with me. There's another course they're doing is masters in business psychology. So the teaching and everything is similar. Everything is the same, except that they won't get the accreditation by the BPS, but they study alongside with us. So we'll also for organizational psychology, we'll have a lot of business majors coming in, people who, who have done like, let's say even like you for like example, marketing or even finance. So we have people from varied backgrounds, and if they want to get into more of the people side of the business, they'll usually do business psychology. But the thing is, they won't be able to take the chartership route to occupational psychology if they've done business psychology. So if you want to stay true to that psychological aspect of being in the workplace and studying all of that, then I would say you would need a bachelor's in psychology.
So when I was going through the website, I saw that for organizational psychology specifically, they were requiring something GBC and eligible for GBC. And if not, you should do MSc normal psychology. So what is GBC? Like, what did you have to submit for that?
So that's the graduate basis for chartership. Again, I was saying the chartership route of becoming an occupational psychologist. And you have to submit your mark sheets to the British Psychological Society online.
Right. And then out of all the universities, why did you choose to study psychology at Manchester?
So I applied to quite a few, which I'm sure a lot of students who want to study in the UK do apply to quite a few. One thing that really stood out to me was the course structure. So I feel like especially when you're looking at studying abroad, like ranking could play a part, yes, but it's very important what you study as well, right? What your modules are. And I found the modules very interesting. They also had additional qualification from another company that came in and actually trained our course. So we had the advantage of getting that additional training, and it was included in the course fee. So I loved the modules. I liked all of that. The ranking is quite high from University of Manchester when you look at international rankings. And I actually did not apply to a single university in London because London's very expensive. Yeah, I was trying to look at Imperial, but their course was organizational and social psychology, which was not something I was that interested in. And and then King's and all of those other universities had their fee very high, and living in London would be very expensive. And I honestly I wanted to come to Manchester. It's a great city, I would say. I've loved living here, and I feel like it ticked all of the boxes in that sense. So I just went ahead with it.
Okay, perfect. So can you tell me about your application process? Like, when did you apply and when did you hear back from the university, more or less? Like,
yes. So I applied in December of last year. And then it was just like that online application and your letter of motivation and your mark sheets and transcripts and everything. And then I got my response in April. So it was a bit later, but I got my conditional offer in April. And then I was still in my final year then. So then after I submitted all of my mark sheets, I got the unconditional offer.
Okay, perfect. So can you tell me more about your course? Like, how is your year divided? How many semesters do you have?
So we have 2 semesters and then dissertation period. So I would say that each semester is like 1/3 of your degree. So our first semester starts as soon as the academic year starts, so which was the end of September last year. And
how many
subjects last year?
Sorry. I thought you were done speaking. You can continue. Sorry.
Yeah, so 2 semesters. So we started our first semester in end of September, and then we finished that. We had exams in January, and then we would have like a little bit of break, and then they start second semester teaching. So they will have teaching of 8 to 10 weeks for each module, and at the end of those 8 to 10 weeks, we'll have our exam for all the modules, or we'll have assignments throughout also sometimes. So usually it'll be like 20-30% of the grade is you do an assignment or you make a presentation with a group or something, and then the rest is a written exam paper.
So you had exams for all the subjects?
Sorry?
You had exams for all the subjects?
Actually, for research skills, what we did is in first semester for research skills, we had 2 assignments, and this time we had only one assignment that was 100% of the grade.
Mhm.
But for the rest of the modules, we have exam. Yes.
Okay. So can you tell me, like, how does the teaching look like? Do you have lectures every day? Is it more online, offline? How are the lectures, more or less?
So each semester we have 4 modules, and for every module we'll have one lecture every week. So I know that that's not the case for other courses in the business school I'm in, but for our course we have 3 hour lecture
Mhm.
for each module. So I have 4 modules, right? So I'll have three 4 hour, sorry, 4 3 hour
Like,
lectures.
uh-huh.
So in first semester I had a lecture on Monday, 3 hours, Tuesday 6 hours. So we had 2 lectures on that day, and then Wednesday 3 hours again. So we would have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Second semester we only had Monday and Tuesday, but it would be full day. So we would have
Mhm.
a 3 hour lecture, then 1 hour lunch break, and then another lecture, and both days would be the same.
So
So yeah.
convenient, right? Because then you have rest of the week to do other things like a part-time or things like that, right?
Yeah, a lot of people are working, and we had the opportunity to be able to tell them if we wanted to do 2 days or 3 days in second semester. But then, because a lot of people are working, they found that it would be better to just do it that way.
Yeah, makes sense. Because at King's, like we had lectures like every day, and then because of that, we could not really
It's
commit.
tiring.
It's so
Yeah.
tiring, and just to travel with London and all of that. Okay, so tell me,
True.
like when you talk about teaching, so how is it? Like, does the university, like the teacher come and like show you presentations, or is it more interactive? Like, how does that work? Like,
Yeah. So our class size is very small. It's about 30-35 people. So it's very interactive.
mhm,
Uh, basically the professor would come in, put on their presentation, right, and then start teaching. But it wouldn't be that they are just teaching and we're just sitting and listening and that's it. Like they would ask us, like they wouldn't pick on anyone obviously, but they would ask us questions, or always give the opportunity for us to ask them questions. And usually it would be a lot of talking, a lot of listening to other people's experiences, even if they are teaching something and we can relate it back to, like, oh, when we were working part time we faced a similar situation. So it's very open in that way, very interactive. The professors are really good. Most of them are very funny.
is
So
it? Mhm.
yeah, honestly, humor is a big part of our course. Most of them are very funny. It's we do a lot of little exercises also. So maybe even during class, it's normal for the teacher to be like, yeah, take 10-15 minutes, pick 2 people around you, and you together like discuss this topic, and then everyone will share their views. So it's very interactive.
Mhm. So before lectures, do you have to go through like a lot of reading material, or do you study after the class? Like, how is that like?
So for after each lecture, we'll have a reading list available on Blackboard.
Mhm.
But before each lecture, there's nothing that you really need to do. But sometimes for classes, if we are doing a case study,
Mhm.
the document will be on the website, and the teacher will be like, yeah, read this and then come to class, so you're aware and prepared. So sometimes we have a pre-homework thing to do, but yeah, not all the time. It's very short, usually 10-15 minutes.
Right. So, like, do you interact? Like, do you have any common lectures with people studying business psychology or normal psychology, or it's
So yeah, so business psychology and organizational psychology study together.
oh,
All of our classes and everything is the same. And both together, both courses together, we are like 30-35 people.
oh,
So yeah,
mm-hmm.
quite a few of us. So it's become a very like family kind of thing. Everyone knows everyone. We're all very close. We all have, so we don't have any like optional modules. The whole course is compulsory and they're basically set out. So we all have the same classes and same everything.
Right. So the certification you talked about. So like I have few friends who are studying psychology, and I'm not sure because this is like what I've heard, so I might be completely wrong. But they said that they can't start immediately working. Like they need some other certificate. I'm not sure if that's the certificate you're referring to, but they have to like work in NHS for like 3 years and then they get some certificate. I don't know what. So how is it for you? Like, can you start immediately working after?
I'm really not sure what you were referring to there. It's really nothing like that, to be fair. A lot of us doing work psychology wouldn't really end up working in NHS, to be honest. I think they have more openings. I've seen on NHS's website, there are more openings for like, counseling or clinical psychology, more mental health related stuff.
Right.
For us, the differentiation for business psychology and organizational psychology, I've found the biggest differentiation that for some jobs when we are applying, business psychology students can't really apply to a few jobs. that even maybe a course coordinator will send us, because those jobs require for us to be studying a degree that is accredited by the British Psychological Society.
Right.
And yeah, and if we are doing the accredited degree, right, so as soon as we are done with the degree, we can obviously start working. So there's no certification as such to wait for. It's just business psychology people have that little, like those few options that aren't available because business
Right.
psychology isn't accredited.
So even in general, like having psychology, like I don't know, like what she told me. So my friend is studying criminal psychology, something
Oh.
like that. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. But she told me that, by looking for jobs, they're not looking for freshers right now. They want people who have some years of experience and some certification. So for you, it is not like, because organizational psychology, obviously you're working in corporate firms, so it is very different than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing I would say though, that even the route I'm going down, which is I want to become a chartered occupational psychologist, but to officially be able to gain the chartership title, I would have to work in a relevant field for 2 to 3 years after doing the accredited masters. So
Right.
if you're talking about those roles, especially like actual psychologist roles, I
Mhm.
would say yes, it takes time to get there. So for me, it would take 2 to 3 years of working after my degree.
Mhm.
But again, criminal psychology and organizations are very different. I
Right.
found the best that for roles, especially if you're a fresher with not that much experience, or at least I don't have any full-time experience, then I found that graduate schemes are a great thing to apply for. Or I've applied to, even roles like trainee occupational psychologist. So trainee usually is for, students who are just studying their masters and want to start out in psychology.
Right. So other than that, like what are the what jobs do you apply for? Like trainee psychology, can you like can you work in HR also? Like I don't know how that works.
Yeah, so the one benefit of doing organizational psychology is it's very closely related to HR, right? We often joke and sometimes we say like it's like HR but with real science in it. So that's yeah, but we see, especially now after COVID and everything, like companies are more and more aware of the well-being and mental health of their employees and even of their own practices and how they shape their organization, what the organizational culture is like. And so I would say that there's honestly a lot of opportunities, because by studying in this degree, you can work in HR and then you can work in any field of HR. So you could get into recruitment, you could get into training, you could get into people advisory. And
Right.
at the end of the day, it depends on you. Some people, they have it in key, this is a niche I'm interested in, I want to go down this path. But then again, even as freshers, we are also encouraged to sort of keep an open mind, because you never know what you may end up liking,
Correct.
and
Correct.
what you may like to work in. So I've applied to HR jobs, people advisory jobs, then trainee occupational psychologist jobs, and in psychometrics, things like that. So lots of opportunities, I would say. Yeah.
That's interesting. So tell me, how hard is it to study this? Because we have talked before, like you're always studying. Even I'm cribbing about like having too much reading material. So tell me more about it. How many hours do you
Uh,
study?
I would say studying was a little bit harder in first semester, just because I found ki here it's very different the way they teach, the whole teaching system. Honestly, when I came here, I didn't know what Google Scholar was,
Mm-hmm.
which is just crazy because I studied psychology in India, but we had like certain textbooks that we would only refer to, and you're not encouraged to get out of your curriculum as much. And as you know, in India, you have a curriculum, you have textbooks, they give you notes, they give you, and then that's about it. So here, there's no limit. You're supposed to basically know the whole literature.
Right.
Even when you're writing your aces and all, you have to acknowledge everything that's been done and everything. So it was a little challenging in first semester, but to be honest, I've even during COVID, I was in a habit of reading. I would read like 100 pages every day. And then when I came here, after figuring out the education system a bit more and how they work, it was easy. Like in my second semester too, I found it easy. Like I've figured out how to skim read.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you never read the whole paper. You read the you read it with sort of an agenda in mind of what you want to get out of the paper, and then
Correct.
sort of just skim through it. So I would say it's become easier now. Reading is definitely a habit. I think it would be helpful for incoming students to also just get used to reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another thing is, if you pay attention in lectures, which teaching and attending lectures has been my favorite part of the degree. So you get the whole essence of the topic through your lectures, right? And then you're not clueless anymore. So when you have more of an idea, even reading and going through literature becomes easier. So I would say as long as you're focusing in class, and then if you have any doubts, professors are there to help, and then doing your reading, then it should be fine. It's been easy then, yeah.
Right. So when in terms of your assignments and your exams, so is it very theoretical? Like as you mentioned, like a lot of literature and all of that. So how much freedom do you have to given your more like given your personal ideas or your practical point of view, or is it more like only research based in that sense?
So okay, our professors also always point this out that obviously you're reading literature, yes, but don't just read literature and then tell us what's in literature because we know. So I think they put a lot of emphasis on us critically evaluating everything. So
Mhm.
we are supposed to read literature, find patterns in what's been going on in the field and what limitations are there. And so we are supposed to sort of do our own thinking there and actually give our own ideas there. So they encourage that. And even in essays I've written, I've given out my own ideas and my own perspective. And then that's how everyone's essay differs, right? And then
Right.
everyone's own angle comes in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how many Indians are there in your class?
I think 4 to 5.
4 to 5. That's still less compared to a lot of people I've spoken to. And what is the
Really?
average age group? Yeah, yeah. A lot of Indians usually, at least like even in Warwick, there were like about 60, 70 Indians. But I think their course is
Oh,
also, a lot of
a
students
bit,
anyways.
yeah.
But yeah, what is the average age group of your classmates?
It's very varied. So it goes from 21 to 47.
Oh, hmm.
So we have people of all different age groups. So
So,
yeah.
while applying, because usually, to give while writing your motivation or letter, like statement of purpose, you have to give like a reason how you got into this and why you're interested. So, what I've seen at Kings, at least, a lot of people are below, like most of the people are below 25, like 24, 25, and that's like mostly freshers. So, with this kind of age gap, how different is it? Like, because somebody who is 47 definitely has way more experience and knows
Yeah.
more. So, how do you like really understand and learn from each other?
I would say that, okay, especially like in a psychology field, we're like very much more like aware and perceptible to other people. I would say we're very understanding even of like the age gap or even cultural gaps. Like in my class, we have 4, 5 British people. That's it. Rest everyone's from like Palestine, Argentina, USA, like different places. So I think we're all very keen on just listening to each other more, so understanding different perspectives even with varied working experience. Like there's people who have like decades of full-time experience and then freshers, right? So we would listen to what their work experience was like. And I think everyone's different background and walks of life and different perspective is just very valued.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, we still end up finding a lot of similarities because we all love this subject. We all want to study more about it. And we all have our own experiences to relate it to. And I think we've all just learned a lot from each other just by being open to everyone's experience.
Right. So, how organizations work differ in each country, like how the Indian culture is different, British is different. So, while
Yeah.
teaching, is it more from the British perspective or do you take like the global aspect from it?
We take a global aspect, yes.
Okay. So, tell me, what is your favorite thing about your university? Like,
My favorite thing about my university, okay, I would honestly say it's I study in the business school, and that building was like recently renovated in 2019, and only business students have like the access to it. So honestly, just that whole business school and just being able to meet the professors I have. So I would genuinely say that there's a professor that I've met who's actually like left a mark on me, and like I want to pursue what he taught because I gained such an interest in it by the way he taught, and just being able to meet our professors, and it's a very wholesome experience. There's not one thing I could point out because there's so many things that have contributed to my experience in the university. But then best I would say is, yeah, the business school and the people that are in it and the kind of exposure it's given me.
right. So, because Manchester ranks what, 25th in the world right now? So, it's a
27th according to the QS rankings last week.
27, but that's a really great ranking. So, do you think people around you are like everybody super smart and really intellectual? Uh, that
The
kind of.
competition is crazy. I think even you have like in one of your videos, I think you've said that as well. Even in London, especially, like the competition is crazy. I would tell you, everyone is insanely smart. like there's not like one person who's you like everyone's really smart.
Right.
So yeah, that's what makes it more when you're in that kind of environment around those people. So
And what do you not like about university if you had to name one thing?
I would say that the administration, like not the teaching or any of that, but like the actual like office people with the administration and everything. So even like, so I know that there have been delays in issuing CAS and things like that for
Mm-hmm.
incoming students. So I would say a little bit of that administration part I don't think is that efficient. And sometimes even like our professors will be shocked at how the administration isn't handling things well. So for example, there was a formative essay people had written in the start, and the teachers are like, okay, so you're going to start your exam soon, so learn from the feedback you got from the formative essay. And some students were like, no, we didn't. And they're like, seriously? Even the professors were shocked. So just that administration aspect I think could be improved.
Right. And in terms of marks, does Manchester give you marks easily? Because you're, above 70 is like, wow, it's so hard. I mean, at least in Kings, I don't know how it is in Manchester, but is it the same there? Like to score above 70
Um,
is almost impossible.
so average scores of classes typically are mid 60s, 67, 68. So average score of classes have been that. But no, I don't think they give marks easily. Like it really depends. So there's been several papers that I've scored a distinction in, and so is the case with a lot of people in the class. Yes, but
Mhm.
sometimes even through their feedback, like you'll get mid 60s and something, and the feedback will be like, oh, you have a deep understanding, you've written it very well and everything. But then there's still that they find some way or the other to criticize you, and they
Right.
criticize the paper you've written. So I wouldn't say they give it easily. So
So for the
yeah.
ones you scored above 70, so what different did you do? Because initially when I came here, like, because I did not know anything about referencing and, all these technical parts we were not taught back in India. So I really struggled a lot in my first sem, but second sem was much easier. So how did you manage that? Like what did you learn and what different did you do?
So yeah, honestly, if I would take example of my first term, see, my personal experience has been this. So in first term we had two exams, and then in one I scored distinction, like it was 75 something, and then in the other I scored only a merit and not a distinction. And I felt that I had put equal amount of effort, but I think at the end of the day it actually came down to my understanding of the subject and my passion about it. So the one I scored distinction in, I love that subject genuinely, and I can say confidently that I know so much more about it than the other one. So I think it's my how passionate I am about the subject and how interested I am in it. My
Mhm.
marks are usually like reflected accordingly. And you can't like score distinction in every single subject and every single paper. So I would say like go for what your interest and passion is most in. But then if you get merit in some subject that you don't like that much, then honestly don't beat yourself up about it.
Right. So, because how many, like, in Manchester, there are two main universities, like, obviously, University of Manchester, and the other one is Manchester Metropolitan, right? So, how
Yeah.
many other universities are there? I'm not sure. Are there
So
more?
I think there's also another called University of Salford.
Okay, okay.
um, I think that's about it. Honestly,
Mhm.
University of Manchester is the biggest,
So,
though.
do you
So,
think because there are less amount of universities and comparatively less competition to London, it's easier for you to find a job there?
um, see, I feel like when it comes to finding a full-time job, like you're referring to full-time job, right?
Full time, part time, like any kind of, because here even for part time we are competing with like 100 universities in London, so it is
Yeah.
almost like it's so hard. So how is it in Manchester?
London's much bigger too, but then I would say that obviously there's far more opportunities in London as well than opportunities here. So again, I think I watched this in one of your videos as well. Like if you want to find a job in McDonald's or a super like a fast chain food restaurant or whatever, then you'll get it easily. But
Mm-hmm.
then you're finding work in your field, in your relevant field, and then also having that be flexible and be managing at the same time as when you're studying. That's a bit harder, I would say.
Okay, so can you tell me, like, were you part of any clubs or societies while studying?
I tried to be part of a club, but I wasn't really. I feel like undergraduates are far more interested in all of that. So we have like over 400 clubs and societies, and like our students union is one of the biggest in the country. But whenever you go there, it's mostly just undergrads you'll see there. So I think it's more of just an undergrad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was involved so I'm a student ambassador for my university, and I also volunteer for the postgraduate career service of my business school. So I
Okay.
feel like I've more directly been involved in what goes in my business school
Mm-hmm.
than with like the societies and all that.
Okay, interesting. So we're talking about the career fair and all of that. Like you're part of the main, like when recruiters come, you might be the point of contact, right? So what have you seen? Like how are the opportunities right now? How is the London market in general, the UK market in general?
I would say very great. I have personally not felt that there's less opportunities or less jobs. I feel like there's a plethora of opportunities, that there's something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We recently had a lot of employers also come into our business school. So they were sharing what openings they have and inviting students to apply and everything. So we had Procter and Gamble, Amazon Web Service, Fujitsu, and just so many big companies like that.
So you had an
Um,
offline fair or like an online thing?
Offline. So it was in the school, a lot of representatives of these companies came and they were like with us and everything. So that was really good. I think the business school especially is very well connected to the real world. Will all the time have networking events. You'll always see like professional people in and about the business school and a lot of things like that. And I think being part of the career service has helped a lot, because again, I feel like I'm very then closely connected and then first point of contact, and I know what's going on and everything. And even recently we have a human resources annual event yearly, and so I was invited to one of them as a guest, so I got to attend that. So like a lot of those things in our school. Yeah, so
So
yeah,
like
it's been good that way. I met a lot
Manchester
of
also
employers.
helps you like in terms of networking, like what do you mean? Like just the career fairs and also what else do they do? Like because I've heard like Manchester Business School again, like in terms of like making your CV, interview practice, that also you really get a lot of help, right?
Yeah, so the events are just one part of it, like when employees come in and everything. So apart from that, we have a special team just dedicated for the postgraduate careers in the business school. So you can book one-to-one appointments with them. So they will help you with your CV, your cover letter. You can do a mock interview with them, so help you practice your interview skills. And then online, we have an AI CV checker. So it's like, and most employers these days are using artificial intelligence to check your CV, especially big companies. Like they don't manually look at anyone's CV. So
Right.
so the online function will give you a score and such a detailed feedback. The
Mhm.
feedback is so detailed, and you can correct what was not right and fix that and run it through the tracker again. So that's another thing. We have online resources for psychometric tests, because they are also becoming increasingly popular. So when you're giving online tests, it's good to practice beforehand. So any aspect you can think of recruitment, like the service is very helpful. And then you can book one-on-one appointment just like that, just to talk about what you could apply to, where to, how to
Mhm.
go about it and all that.
Mhm. So, I've been getting a lot of questions about this careers because everybody's so worried because, people are investing time, money, and all of that,
Yeah.
taking loans to come here. So, like you mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities, but do you see that in every sector? Like, even for management, do you think that as freshers, like whatever you've seen, like people prefer freshers or people with a bit of experience? Like, how does that look like?
So I would say, so see the UK job market and the application, I think it's divided in two parts as a student, especially for you. So one is there's graduate schemes and then there's direct hires.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you go for direct hires, there's a lot of mixed opportunities, a lot of companies looking for experienced professionals and all of that. So I think if you're an individual who doesn't have full-time work experience at all, then going for graduate schemes is your best bet, because they are specifically looking for people who don't have experience and specifically looking for freshers to train, right?
Right.
And then that's one thing. And obviously through direct hire also you can get a job and all, but maybe that's a bit more searching, and there's so much that you need to sift through and look through for a job that's right for you.
Right. So University of Manchester is one of the biggest universities, like with a lot of students. So how is your life there? Like other than like just lectures, like what all do you do? Do you have any common parties or events or things like that? How is that like?
Because there's like so many students here, it's actually very easy to meet people and make friends, I would say. So not just from my course, but from the university or even neighboring universities or whatever. Everyone, it's a very student friendly city. It's like literally built that way. And we get to, like, most people around where I live and all also will be students. So there's a lot of parties happening, a lot of activities, and everyone's super open and just open to meeting new people. So even if there's literally any party going on, it's like, yeah, invite everyone or whoever or anything. So people are not like closed off in their tiny groups. Like, people make it a point to do things they can with as many people as possible. So yeah, I would say it's very easy to meet other students and make friends.
And do you think you have gained a lot more after doing your master's than you knew already? Because is it very similar to your bachelor's degree or is it like completely different?
Honestly, I would say that after just doing my bachelor's degree, I knew things, but I knew next to nothing. And then after doing this master's degree, in literally just like, it's been what, 10 months now, and I feel like I've changed completely. I know so much more about my field now. And
Mhm.
even all of that thing of reading a lot and a lot and a lot, yes, it feels like a lot, but then at the end of it, you'll know so much more. And all the interviews and, job tests and everything I've given, I don't think I would have been equipped to give those had I not done this master.
Yeah, okay, interesting. So, if you had to say like one thing which sets Manchester apart than other universities, what is the unique selling point? Like,
Um, the unique selling point. I again, everyone's different, so it depends on each person. But I would say for me, the unique selling point has definitely been the teaching. Again, I don't have any comparison, like, things to compare it to, but
mhm,
I found their teaching very like extraordinary, and they are also their career support. I think it's one of the best.
right. So let us talk about living in Manchester. So you mentioned like you did not want to stay in London and you chose Manchester. So after like you graduate, are you planning to stay there or are you planning to apply to London or where?
So I've actually already got a job. So I've got it down south, near Southampton.
Right.
Uh, so I'll be moving there after that. I would have loved to live in Manchester, of course, but I think as a fresher, it's, wherever the job takes you.
Right. So tell me about you. Wow, you got a job. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But did you get a graduate job?
Yeah, so I got a human resources graduate scheme,
Mhm.
and it's rotational. So basically, all that I've studied in my degree, all the modules, I'll basically practically be working into each of those area for three,
Mhm.
4 months in each area over the course of 2 years.
So tell us more. Like, where did you get in? Like, when did you apply? Did you apply in December itself for the graduate role?
Yes, I applied last December and I got the job this April.
Oh my God, such a long process. So again, like
Yeah.
a lot of questions about that as well, because graduate schemes you have to go through like a lot of psychometric tests, a lot of interviews. So share it with us. Like, how was that like?
So ever since I applied from December, obviously you do your application first, and then you automatically get a link to do an assessment. And so I had like I did the application. I had a psychometric test, so that was numerical reasoning, logical reasoning, and like verbal reasoning as well.
Mhm.
So something along like your standard intelligence test along those lines. So that was that. And then second, I think it was like more of a situational judgment test, or another one like that. And then after that, so you give this and they get back to you, and then that takes a little bit of time. So there were like 3 4 stages, and then after that there was like assessment center. So I had to give a presentation. I had to actually first give an individual proposal. So they had given us material in advance to prepare to give your individual proposal. Then they saw group discussion, and then a group presentation, and then also an individual presentation. And then I also had a 1 hour structured interview
Right.
with the two of the people who are in the who will be who are also in the human resources field. So that was actually now that I've joined the company, like now that I've gotten the job and everything, so that those people were actually my manager's manager. So
Wow. Mhm.
they both interviewed me. So yeah, it was a long process, but I think you can tell a lot about a company by the way they recruit.
Right.
So I feel like throughout this process I was treated very well, and they did it very sensibly and logically. Even though it was long,
Mhm.
they did it well.
So again, which company will you be joining?
So I'll be, so the company is NATS, it's the National Air Traffic Control of the UK.
Mhm.
So it's half government, half public and slightly private companies. It's very mixed. And I'll be joining from 5th September.
That's interesting. Amazing. Congratulations. So
Thank you
can you
so
work
much.
full time after 5th of September? I think until the 30th you can't, right? With the PSW work visa. How is that for you?
So I feel like as soon as I submit my dissertation and I get a letter from my university saying I've completed my course, I can work.
Okay, that's interesting. I did not know that because for us, we are asked not to work until the 30th of September. So,
I think so. Is that when your course ends? Because my course end date is only 5th September.
oh, that's why. Yeah. My course ends at the in 30th September. Yeah, maybe that's why.
So probably a bit longer. And I plan on submitting my dissertation earlier than 5th September, and they said I can submit it whenever. It's up to me.
And how many graduate schemes did you apply for? Because during that time, it was like, how did you come to know about this role? And like, were you already aware of these graduate schemes and how to go about it? Like, did you have guidance from your university or did you already knew about it?
So before I came to Manchester, only before I came to the UK, my university would hold these online webinars. And there they would tell us everything. They would tell us this is the time from when graduate schemes run. This is the time when people apply for direct hires. So I would recommend everyone that if your university holds these webinars beforehand, that do attend them because they share so much information. So during those webinars, I got to know what graduate schemes are and where when to apply and all of that. So then as soon as I came here from October, I started applying. I would say that one mistake I did make is that earlier I was applying to graduate schemes I wasn't necessarily interested in or they weren't as relevant. So, for example, management consulting, not something that I would actually want to do. So, I wish I hadn't applied for those because I don't see a point anymore.
Mhm.
But, it's again a learning curve. You sort of, even you don't know much when you first get here and you're also trying to figure out the job market. So, I applied it through a website called Bright Network, right? Yeah, so I applied through a website called Bright Network. I would really recommend that. So you can select sectors in it and which sector you'd like to apply to, and it's majorly for graduate schemes.
Right.
Uh, so I applied to around 2025, honestly. But I would say the relevant ones that I actually wanted to work in would be around 10, 15 that I applied to.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of graduate schemes where you get into the second stage, third stage, second last stage, but then you get rejected. So I would say that part is a bit hard because you've already invested so much of your time and effort into it. Like I'd gotten to the last stage of a company in London actually,
Mhm.
but then at the last moment they were like, it's not possible to go ahead and all that. So
Heartbreaking.
it happens, but
Mhm.
yeah, you got to keep applying to as many as you can.
Right. And for upcoming students who are coming to the UK to study in Manchester, to get a job, everything, what is the best advice can you can give?
Be very aware, okay, of what's going on and what job opportunities are available. And second thing I would say is when you read the job description and everything very realistically, assess if this job is right for you, assess if you're matching their skills and requirements, because I see a lot of people will just apply to like jobs that they're not even maybe qualified for. And I would say that's a waste of everyone's time, of the company's time and your time, because you're not gonna probably may not get it if your skills and requirements don't match. So be careful and get a better sense of what kind of job fits your profile and what you're looking for and apply to those.
Right. And tell me, what is the benefit of doing a graduate scheme versus a normal hired job?
So I would say that if you have more than 2 3 years of full-time work experience, don't do a graduate scheme. And then as a fresher, obviously, graduate scheme has a very heavy training component, and a lot of them are rotational. So you work in different departments for a few months. And for a fresher who doesn't have much experience, that can be very good exposure. That can give you very good experience in so many different areas.
Mhm.
So it's very good from training and development aspect of it. And I would some people, I had spoken to someone who lives in the UK, has been born and brought up here. He started his career from a graduate scheme. So it's a very good way to kickstart your career, because they know, people employers also know that graduate schemes are competitive. So as a fresher, it's a good way to get your foot in the industry.
Right. And talking about your friends at Manchester, do you think everybody is already placed or hired, or you are one of the few who has managed to get a graduate scheme?
So from my class, I think only 2, 3 people have got a graduate scheme. But then again, there's so much variation in my course, even with age group and like how much experience people have. So a lot of them are, applying for direct hires. A lot of people have, already like if they worked for years and back home, like their company wants them back, or they already have certain things set up, so it really differentiates. But yeah, only 2, 3 people got a graduate scheme.
And for other folks who are not studying organizational psychology, do you know anything about them? Like,
With a lot of I don't know that much about other classes really, but yeah, a lot of people, I would say 90% people are going for direct hires and applying for jobs right in this moment, so from June to like September.
right, makes sense. But thank you so
Yeah.
much, Priyanka. I think I have learned so much from you, and it was super insightful. And I'm sure everybody watching this I think this is the video I'm going to send to a lot of students who ask about the jobs and roles like that. So, do you mind if I share your LinkedIn ID in the description box below?
Yeah, no, of course not. I can just yeah, put my LinkedIn ID here now. Yeah. And I would just like to say thank you so much. I've had so much fun just, sharing my experiences and talking to you and all of that. It's been amazing.
I've really learned a lot. Thank you so much, Priyanka. Thank you for being here.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
See you.